I'm a retired elementary school teacher. I retired in 2006. If I have that correct, that was 14 years ago. When I was 6 years old, I began to stutter. During my teens and my 20s, I stuttered severely. At times, I could not get out any words at all. So at the age of 30, I attended a PFSP, that's Precision Fluency Shaping Program, in Toronto. And at the age of 30, for the first time since I was 6 years old, I could say a full sentence without stumbling over at least one word. But a week or so after the clinic, I was talking with someone on the phone, and my newly acquired fluency skills flew out the window. At the age of 41, I was living in an apartment in North York. I had begun to work as a special education teacher. I was working with severely handicapped students who would not have been bothered by the fact that I couldn't speak very well. And this neighbor across the hallway, an elderly Jewish woman who was very kind to me, she knew that I wasn't reading the newspaper every day, because sometimes I would get tired of reading the newspaper. But she knew that I was looking for a new place to live because I couldn't get along with the owners of the low-rise apartment building in North York where I was living. So she left the Toronto Star outside my door one day. That was on May the 4th, 1987. And I still remember I was sitting in a chair in my apartment, and I read an article about a new speech therapy clinic that had been opened in Edmonton in 1986. I was on the phone the next day, and in July 1987, I attended the Institute for Stuttering Treatment and Research, or ISTAR for short, a 3-week clinic. And because I had lost my fluency skills right after a previous clinic, this time around, after I left the 3-week clinic, I spent 4 years and 4 months, that is from July 1987 until December 1991. I spent that time in transfer and maintenance of my fluency skills. Every day, I would consciously apply my skills every time that I opened my mouth. I also recorded 2-minute segments of presentations, phone calls, conversations, and I analyzed them to make sure that I was applying my fluency skills correctly. Now, this involved a lot of work, but it was worth it. But I would add that what has worked for me is not going to work for every person who stutters. About 20% of the people who attend a fluency shaping course, such as the one that I attended in Edmonton in 1987, about 20% of those people will not be able to achieve the lasting skills which I was able to achieve. It's not because they're not working hard enough. It's simply because of how their brains are wired for speech production. So in my case, I chose to find a treatment program that would enable me to deal with stuttering. Before I came across the program in Edmonton, which I've described, I didn't have much interest in data or in science as it relates to stuttering treatment. But after that, I learned there's a distinction between people who have an interest in data, that is, people who are data-oriented, and in contrast, I realized that there are people who have no interest in data. So my own approach is that I like data, I like evidence-based practice. If there's information about a treatment program that has been published in peer-reviewed professional journals, I'll be interested in it. If there are no outcomes reported and there are no plans to publish outcomes for a particular approach, then I, for one, will not be interested. Given my interest, I'm very much impressed with a website and a network called PrevNET. That's PrevNET. The PrevNET website, PrevNET stands for Promoting Relationships and Eliminating Violence Network. It was founded by Deborah Pepler of York University and Wendy Craig of Queen's University. This website, or this network, was set up in 2006. So I strongly recommend, if you have an interest in bullying, especially in evidence-based overviews of bullying, what it is, how to address it, all kinds of information, I strongly recommend PrevNET. It's a non-for-profit network of 130 leading Canadian research scientists, and it includes 145 graduate students and emerging scholars. It includes 30 universities and 62 national youth-serving organizations. And among the topics that you will find at the website is an overview of PrevNET, a discussion of what bullying is and what we can do about it. There's a discussion about signs of bullying, dangers of bullying, what parents need to know, what kids need to know about bullying, what teens need to know, what educators need to know. And it also discusses types of bullying. I recommend this website very highly. A widely used definition, which I subscribe to, it defines bullying as a relationship problem. It's a problem of relationships. And it involves the assertion of interpersonal power through aggression. To put it another way, bullying is a subtype or a form of aggression. Other forms of aggression include things like harassment, intimidation, violence in a wide variety of forms, both verbal violence and physical violence and social violence. And from my perspective, it also includes structural violence and systemic discrimination. But I'm getting ahead of myself ever so slightly. So we can say that it's a problem of relationships. It involves the assertion of interpersonal power through aggression. And also in the standard definition, bullying involves negative physical or verbal action that has hostile intent. It also causes distress to the victims of bullying. And it is repeated over time, and it involves a power differential between bullies and their victims. Now, that definition has been qualified by some observers, including Marilyn Langevin from the University of Alberta, who developed a school-based and classroom-based anti-bullying program. She has noted that on some occasions, a single instance of bullying can have a tremendously negative impact on a person's life. So we don't always need to say, according to Marilyn Langevin and others, we don't always need to say that bullying is always something that is repeated. Another aspect of this, if I can find where I've written these notes, another aspect of this is that in the standard definition, we assume that there's a power differential between the bully and between the person who is in the role of the bully and the person who is in the role of the victim. So in the standard definition, the bully has more power, is maybe larger, is physically stronger, or in some way is more powerful than the person toward whom the bullying is being directed. And what Marilyn Langevin and others have pointed out is that sometimes bullying can occur where there is no evidence power differential. And sometimes this is especially evident in cyberbullying, where there's no definite or clear distinction between the person who bullies and the person who is bullied. I can just say a few words about my own situation. When I was younger, I stuttered severely, as I've mentioned. I was never teased or bullied to any great extent. I was never bullied, for example, because of the fact I stuttered. And among the reasons might be that I had plenty of friends. I had a way with words, even though I stuttered. If someone said something nasty to me, I was quite capable of using my command of language to respond in a way that would set things right for me. Even though that's the situation, one of the things that I felt was a sense that I didn't really belong to the human race. I believe that, as one of my friends from years ago from my volunteer work said, she felt that she lived on planet Stutter, and it was a separate planet from planet Earth. And I certainly felt that. I felt that I really wasn't a part of the human race. And it happened every once in a while. I would meet someone and just through their body language and their way of speaking with me, they communicated to me that even though I stuttered, I was okay. I was a fellow human being. And I don't remember too many things from when I was younger. My memory isn't the most fantastic unless I write it down I forget all kinds of things. So many things from years ago are just a blank, and I'm just as happy to leave it as a blank. But I do remember those times when someone communicated to me that I was okay, and I am indeed a full-fledged member of the human race. And that sense of belonging to the human race was such a powerful thing for me. And I really appreciate that a number of people, just in the course of speaking with me, made it a point to welcome me into the human race. And that to me is a form of compassion. It's a form of empathy. And it just underlines that sometimes the smallest things that we do out of kindness can have a lasting, positive, lifelong impact. I am so thankful for those people who let me know that even though I stuttered, I still belonged. What I like about Marilyn Langerman's anti-bullying program, which is called Teasing and Bullying Unacceptable Behavior, or TAB for short. What I like about her program is that it was developed over a period of several years. It has been field tested, and its effectiveness has been documented on the basis of evidence-based research. It's not simply a program where someone introduces something and then asks a few people what they think and then decides, well, this is a fantastic program. It's important to have data to back up any program of this nature. There's been extensive research about how often children are bullied in schools. And a consistent finding in the research is that children who stutter are more frequently subjected to bullying than is the case with students who don't stutter. So one time I was back at my school for some evening event, and I went up to the second floor of the school. It's a small school, and there were students walking up and down the hallways, and one student came up to me and said, "Hey, I know you. You're Mr. Peel. My older brother was in your class a few years ago, and he told me a story that I'll never forget. My brother said Mr. Peel, when I was in grade 4, told the class that he stuttered. And he said that if any child, any student in the school who stutters is getting teased, then Mr. Peel wants to know about it. Because if Mr. Peel hears that some kid who stutters is being teased, Mr. Peel will get mad." And when the student, of course, said that Mr. Peel would get mad, what he was saying was that he would find a way to deal with it. And that indeed is what happened. I had one student who was being teased by a couple of other students, and so I had a quiet talk with each of the students who were alleged to be teasing, and that was the end of the teasing.